Welcome, everybody. My name is Philip Vogart. I'm the Executive Director here at the VR-AR Association. A warm welcome to the Global Summit. I would love to, thank all the production team that's worked really hard to get this thing running. I also want to thank specifically Anne-Marie for bringing this panel together. So we are looking at going beyond the hype of 5G this afternoon, or in the case of two of our participants, our attendees and panelists who are all the way in the West Coast, good morning to you. So I would like to show you a basic topic that we're going to be talking about is 5G and edge computing. And just to give you a quick idea before I get everyone to introduce themselves, we have a little screenshot that I want to share with you just to give you an overall picture. So we have the 5G platform, of course, you've all heard, connectivity, speed, everything. But basically what we're talking about with XR applications is running this thing on the edge of the network. And this differs very greatly from, traditional cloud computing that you have with Facebook and Amazon Web Services and everything. Is the main difference is that we're pushing the data closer to the device, which allows, a lot more accessibility of all the data for 3D visualizations to be pumped to certain devices, whether that's in a car moving, a drone, a headset, whatever it might be. So these are kind of the range that we're going to be talking about, and specifically also looking at the different types of 5G networks that are out there. So I'm going to just stop sharing this screen. And I would really like to have a warm welcome to our four panelists. We have Leslie, Cynthia, Terry, and Ingmaz. We got an international crowd here from different operators and different manufacturers and network providers. I would love each of them to introduce themselves. So first off, we're going to have Leslie come on stage. She'll be talking for Nokia. She'll give a little introduction about who she is, what she's working on, and a little bit about what she's looking at in terms of the XR space. So welcome, Leslie. Thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure. So I'm Leslie Shannon. I'm Nokia's head of ecosystem and trend scouting, located in Silicon Valley. You can see the sun coming up the window behind me here. I focus on looking at the developments that are happening in new technologies beyond telecommunications, and then bringing that information back to Nokia and to our operator customers to show them, these are the things that you need to be building your networks for, because these are the things that are coming regardless of what we in the telco industry are doing. And that has landed me very squarely in the AR VR space, because that really is one of the developments that is going to place the most stringent requirements on telco networks over the next decade, and so need the most cooperation, and also get the most benefit from.
Can't hear you, Philip.
Am I the only one who can't hear Philip?
No, I can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Sorry, Leslie.
There we go. Okay, back to you, Philip.
Just to clarify, to make sure everyone's on the same page with Nokia, you guys don't make any hardware anymore, or at least not anything in a device sense of the word.
No, we don't. Actually, thank you, Philip. Yeah, we sold the device business to Microsoft, almost a decade ago. There are still Nokia phones out in the market. Those are made under license from us by another company, and we are actually. And they're the ones who drive what happens over there. We are a business to business. We sell network equipment to phone companies like Deutsche Telekom and Vodafone. And so if you see a base station up on a pole, chances are that's a Nokia base station. So our interest is in building the best possible networks for our customers and for the end users out there.
And one last question. You mentioned when we spoke a couple of weeks ago that you guys have invested in Germany as well. I mean, okay, I'm based here in Hamburg, so I've got a little bit of interest, something to do with Siemens. Could you explain how that kind of happened?
Well, this is actually kind of ancient history. Back in 2007, Nokia Networks merged with Siemens Networks, and for a period of about 8 years, we were actually the network side of the business was called Nokia Siemens Networks, but
Okay.
that's no longer the case. We are
Old news.
Nokia.
I've never.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, well, thank you, Leslie, for joining. We'll get to the discussion round very shortly, but next we'll invite our other West Coast friend, Terry Schussler, to the stage to introduce you. If you are been in the XR industry for any length of time, you have known this Terry XR Schussler in any which way or form. He's part of the Deutsche Telekom. He is our man in pink. Please tell us a little bit about what you've been working on recently. You also mentioned something, you're finally doing some work with T-Mobile in the States. I'm really keen to hear what you got going on.
Sure. Well, first of all, it's magenta, not pink. Very important. Team Magenta. Hi, everybody. Yeah, sorry. So I'm Terry Schussler, Senior Director of Spatial Computing for Deutsche Telekom. I work in the United States, but for the German organization, and act as a liaison with our daughter company, T-Mobile. My focus is really looking at how we can push forward to helping people successfully make the transition from a heads down to a heads up society. So today we work with our mobile phones, and it's sort of an either or proposition. We're either looking at our digital displays or we're engaging with people in the real world. And my focus is how do we transition to delivering a fully immersive, real world focused first and digitally overlaid or augmented user experience. So a lot of the work I do is focusing on building POCs, and actual projects that commercialize themselves over time, driving this goal. And a lot of my focus has been with edge computing since I joined the company over 5 years ago, and also with the 5G team, looking at ways that we can modify the core network functionality to better enable these immersive, very real-time use cases. So we look a lot at the combinations of edge computing without 5G, 5G without edge computing, and both together to build a better enablement platform on the network for the user and for the developers too. We work very closely with the developer ecosystem to take cutting edge technologies and devices and enable them to be lighter weight, more performant, and create better customer experiences.
So, I mean, what I have noticed in the Deutsche Telekom, like not just going out and doing road shows and POCs and what have you, you guys actually, have a bit of a focus, I've noticed, not just in, XR, but in general, Telecom has a product-orientated features. You really guys work with, a lot of, whether they're startups. I mean, even in this global online summit, VR Direct announced something with you guys. So you guys really want to bring product offerings to the market a lot of the times, I've noticed. Is this something strategic, or is it something that, has just kind of happened since T-Online days that, you offer a lot more with what your services are bringing?
I think the value proposition of XR technologies has enabled them to be realized as a business opportunity unto itself. So even without thinking about the network and sort of instead of 5G and XR being like a showcase partnership, now it's really more about how do we create even better customer experiences with XR technology. So I'm highly focused on XR, standing XR up as a business unto itself, independent of the network functionality, but also empowered by that.
Well, Terry, thank you for joining the panel. Thank you for waking up so early this morning. I hope to see you like in Germany at some point soon again. But again, great to have you on the panel, and great. This is Deutsche Telekom, their first operator on the panel. I'd like now to bring on some people that are actually here this afternoon in Europe. We have then Cinzia Campanella from Milan. She works with Vodafone and has done for quite some time. You are now running a lot of the verticals that are either sometimes or a lot of times related to 5G. Please tell us what you've been working on. What are you excited about in the industry? And in general, how does, maybe Vodafone, since it's like a, quite different, Vodafone in Germany is very different from Italy or from the UK. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how your operations are working.
Hi all. I'm Cinzia Campanella, and I'm responsible for the 5G and vertical solution, as you said. We work with agile methodology, and that's why I'm also the product owner of education, entertainment, retail, and media. So together with all the other POs here in Italy, I set the strategy for all portfolio, for all the verticals. Also, I take care of the roadmap, define the prioritization of all the features and all the operative product working that you can guess. Here in Italy, we take a lot of care on 5G, since we are convinced that this is a strong enabler for the IoT and digital solutions, and that could help our customer to implement all the solutions that are, for example, low latency based, need high bandwidth, mission critical, and so on. That's why we also promoted a call for open innovation here in Italy that is named Action for 5G. It is dedicated to startups and SMEs in order to incentive the launch of 5G solutions or migrating the current solution into the 5G network to benefit from that and to enhance the experience of the solution itself. We promote this giving not only funds, but also technical support, access to our open 5G environment. It is equipped with a mobile access computing. You have mentioned the edge computing as a very important and relevant part of the 5G infrastructure, and that's it. Of course, it has also 5G coverage, so they can test the solution and compare it with the traditional one. It's important to mention this because in the last 3 editions, the winners proposed solutions based on AR and VR technologies, and that's confirmed us the fact that 5G is absolutely relevant and important in this area. Regarding all the other opcos, you are right. We have different operations country by country, even if now we are moving from product development part to a sort of uniform approach across all the countries. So we are developing a group product team that will manage all the solution across more countries in the mid-long term. So we want to have a sort of benefit from the grayscale that we can allow to our customer.
So you kind of got this accelerator program, and you say you've got like a few winners in the last few years, but this overall, being a product owner looks more at not just XR technology then. So you're looking at any kind of use case out there, basically.
Yeah. Of course. Since we are talking about 5G, I want to mention this. But yes, the vertical solutions are not only in the 5G space, but are all the solutions that customers need, because mainly we want to address the needs of our customer base.
Okay, sure. Okay, well, Cinzia, thank you so much for joining us. I know you were like kind of last minute addition to this panel. It's been great to have you here. Now we have 2 operators. I want to bring on Ingmar as the last operator. Ingmar Putkis is a vice president of marketing and business development at LMT. LMT is the biggest telco operator in Latvia. Ingmar, and first of all, Leslie, thank you for bringing Ingmar on board. It's been great chatting with you over the last month or so. Tell us a little bit about what you see in your area of the 5G network, what you maybe been implementing, maybe not exactly a use case as such yet, but like what have you seen as the struggles of the rollout? Because we're trying to get beyond the hype, so let's tell me what your honest feelings about trying to get these things running on your end.
Yeah, hi all. So many greetings from the shores of the Baltic Sea. So we're yes, from our perspective, of course, for us, this is a big game changer these days, because last 10 years, we have been very, very much focused on bringing a decent broadband service to our customers, and we did this with a 4G service, and now 5G is around the corner, and everybody was very hyped up, and they were hyped, and we are still hyped, because the 5G was the first industrial mobile network that there was. So there's this big hope that we will be able to deliver industrial service. But the problem we saw and we still see is that the industry, or let's say our industrial customers, are not exactly standing in lines and waiting for something, because they have no template, they have no idea what actually you can do today and with the 5G technology. And therefore our strategy was to somewhat move away from this very nice and comfy life of being a broadband seller, to actually start to learn and build up our skills as an integrator and as also as an innovator, and actually also go this open innovation path and talk to startups, talk to universities, talk to the government, be part of the EU-wide research initiatives, and somewhat build up particular competences which would be built upon these network capabilities in few of the verticals, like the defense vertical, transportation, healthcare, and some others. And this is somehow the way which we see that otherwise the industry will not just show up, and we will be left with again and again just selling plain broadband, which would be very, very, very boring. So, and there is this link with the augmented reality and virtual reality solutions, because there are use cases in some of the verticals we are seeing, and some of those we have tried is particularly involving this edge computing and virtual reality solutions. Yeah. Philip, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
I keep on muting myself and then trying to.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
So worried about doing all this stuff at home, like someone's going to be banging on something or something. Anyways, thank you, Ingmaz. I thought maybe first question I'd like to put out to the group, but I thought since I've had chats with Leslie about this already. What the idea is that we get all this hype about 5G and the network and the speed and the connectivity. You get the posters and the banners from all the network operators, and it's rolling out. But what interested me about a year and a half ago is the talk of private 5G networks, or what was also called ad hoc networks. Leslie, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what the difference is between this private network, and maybe also, like, is it because of security reasons, or is it even more time critical applications that are like being run, or communications that have to be run? Or is there more to it? Maybe you can give us a little breakdown of how the differentiation is here.
Yeah, I mean, a private 5G network is generally just a company that's got a particular workspace, a campus or a warehouse or whatever, and they put 5G in there to run the applications that they need there. And the advantages of that are definitely better security, because Wi-Fi is not secure, and so if you're doing and very low latency. So if you're doing something that involves, say, coordination of robots, and you don't want the robots to crush human beings, you really need the very low latency and the absolute unhackability of 5G. But another aspect of this, because the thing with private LTE networks is the emphasis is on the word private, because a company will put those in, and they're not going to be out there, shouting to the world, "Hey, we have 5G." So this is happening, and it's actually largely not visible to the public. So there's gazillions of private 5G networks out there already. It's just that they're not the headlines, because the average Joe on the street doesn't experience those. And the reason that we're seeing and AR and VR use cases within these private networks, part of the reason that we're not seeing those so directly is that well, part of the reason that they're starting there is that if you have an enterprise, you've got this known footprint, so you can, you very small area that you enable with 5G and you're done, and then a small set of known use cases. So that's why it's very easy for companies like ours or for any of the operators here to begin with enterprise. And also from the end user point of view, if you need to put, let's be honest, the hardware for a head-mounted display, either AR or VR, it's pretty clunky right now still. You will put that on if you need to do a job. And so for enterprise, you put it on, you do the task, and then you can take it off again. So it's the equivalent of the, say 1992 in mobile phones, where, you've got this giant brick of a phone and you use it because mobile phones really in the 90s started off, I got my first mobile phone through my job. And so that's really kind of where we are in AR and VR with 5G, private networks with, specifically built headsets that people put on to do a job. And from this is going to be the foundation that then ultimately morphs to the larger consumer 5G covering an entire country, and with use cases and with headsets and devices that are acceptable to the general public.
Okay, well, thank you, Leslie. That it clears up a bunch of things, and at least in my head, why you don't hear more about it. Now, in this case, I would say I'm opening it up to you, operator guys, and lady. So give me some use cases where maybe like whether it's in the public sector or whether it's entertainment or whether it's somewhere else. Tell me some kind of use cases that you've seen. Even industrial would be really interesting to hear, like augmented training or augmented assistance, remote services. Any examples? I'd be really interested to hear. I mean, I know Ingmar told me about a military use case. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that, Ingmar?
Yes. So the military is one of the verticals we are working with, and we actually brought together a local partnership together with the armed forces of the Republic of Latvia for the medical training. So we set up an edge computing solution for medical training, joining in the startup, which is developing the content for virtual reality and the medical training, bringing in the headset producer, Lightspace, also one of the local spin-offs of one of the electronics producers. So, and actually made an edge computing solution where we were actually showcasing and proving the ability for different teams to participate in that same training. And in the future, the next step will be actually to bring out that same training to the field, where of course the medical training is something you should not do behind the desk, so to speak. So the more you can roll out and the more realistic you can make it, the more value there is for this training. So in essence, we brought together from edge computing capability from one side, the medical training content from the other side, and showcase the possibility for different remote teams to participate in one training led by single teacher from remote. Yes.
And did this have something to do because of the current circumstances that we find ourselves in with the pandemic, or was this something that would happen anyways, basically, that you have people across a country or in different co-located? So that's where the 5G element really comes in, this whole different, trying to get people with low latency to collaborate in a virtual environment at the same time, you're saying?
I mean, I think training is one of the obvious directions where this will be going, because the things and particularly in the military, they become more and more complex, and the number of people who are able to train, it's always scarce. So you are really motivated to actually bring this content as close and as fast and as cheap as possible to the big masses of customers. Yes.
Philip, you brought up the word collaboration, and that's really a key aspect of what this enablement's all about. If you think about the campus, what we refer to as campus installations, because we've been doing 5G campus installs for years now for our corporate customers in Germany and other countries. And it's really about having a controlled ecosystem environment where you can deliver on-premises edge compute, you can deliver low latency, low jitter, ultra reliable low latency experiences on a closed network. And that collaboration, one of the most popular cases for use cases for augmented reality is remote field support, see what I see type of use cases. And so in a real-time on-campus experience where somebody needs the expertise of a colleague who might be somewhere else on the campus, that productivity gain can be quite significant. You take that same context of remote field support and bring that to the outside the campus ecosystem. We actually commercialize a product called AR Field Advisor that we sell, in Germany to our customers as a really efficient, low latency mobile phone experience, which allows this sort of real-time holographic annotation done on the real world, not on a still picture, but on what's live in the camera at the time that somebody's holding it up with their cell phone, looking at things. And so that's where the network and the reliability that 5G provides is really important, but we continue to see the need to improve on even that by utilizing changes in the network core to create a smooth latency experience, to remove jitter from the network experience as much as possible so you don't have spikes. When you're in a public network context, you might overload the radio with too many people trying to do something at one time in a certain location. And you need to be able to accommodate that reality of everybody trying to do too much by balancing out the experience and creating a good, consistent one. So that's a big focus.
Yeah, actually, Terry, I'll add to what you just said, that expert see what I see thing. That's actually one of the use cases that got a huge boost with COVID. And so it really accelerated the industry quite significantly. And there are use cases in that area that you can do with Wi-Fi. Where you need 5G is not only for the security that Philip mentioned earlier, but also high definition video. Anytime you're carrying high definition video, 4G is not good enough. It has to be 5G. And so if you actually want the expert to be able to do things like read the serial numbers or see the very specific fine grained details, it has to be high definition video, which absolutely puts you in the 5G camp.
Yep.
I probably might add one of the use cases, which is not entirely virtual reality or augmented reality, but it's somehow predecessor for this in terms of capabilities, which we are looking into, is the first-person view drone operations. Since, with the other hand, we are battling through the administrative and bureaucratic issues in Europe with letting the drones fly beyond visual line of sight. And of course, delivering the decent 5G capability for actually first-person view drone management is also one of the use cases that would massively enable the ability for the operator to fly a drone safely beyond visual line of sight. Yeah.
And then maybe if we're talking about outdoor use cases, not just on campuses or on private network areas, what about one of the conferences I went back to about 4 years ago, ThyssenKrupp was using Microsoft HoloLens and Skype to do some installations of stair lifts and things like that using a network capability. But what's very clear was that as soon as you're outside the city, you're not going to get that kind of connectivity. Maybe the operators can talk a little bit about what are we talking about in terms of bandwidth and what kind of expectations can we assume, just briefly maybe in the consumer space. Where are we at this current stage of the market? Maybe Cynthia, you could talk a little bit about what you're seeing on Vodafone.
Regarding consumer, first of all, I can mention that we launched the first 5G solution for consumer market, and it was a cloud gaming solution. It is provided through a distributed MAC, not dedicated, because of course you have to reach all the customers and all the consumers across all the whole territory in Italy. So what we have done is to give access to our customers not only under 5G network access, but only with 4G network. That means that you can benefit from the cloud gaming provided by Mac, by the multi-access edge computing, and the latency that these can allow. And at the same time, you can use the bandwidth that you have thanks to a good 4G network. So you can use all together. We are now working in integrating also the landline. So you can also play when you are at your home, wherever. And this solution is called Game Now. The cloud gaming, it could be useful also for VR. In fact, what we are now doing is to the cloud streaming for VR applications, so you can have more detailed 3D models that can be shown in your visors without having strong computers on your back or in your sides. So the other element is that the 5G coverage is going to become wider and wider because all the operators are investing on it. Also, we have the incentive from the government in order to have a lower digital divide in the remote sites. So I think that it could be an alternative to the broadband in all the locations where taking the landline is very complicated. And instead you can give the same benefit from broadband without having all the complications of the landlines in remote sites.
Yeah, if I could add a little color to that, you asked the question about rural, implementation. So, there's a trade-off in terms of the maximum bandwidth and the coverage area that you're going to provide. And in the United States, for example, T-Mobile, when they merged with Sprint, they were able to acquire a range of bands. So they have low, mid, and high band access so that they're able to reach the rural customer with the low and mid band service and create a nice balance of bandwidth and coverage. Some of the other operators have focused on millimeter wave, which is a very high band, high frequency approach, but that has the constructive limit of coverage, right? Because they don't have that built out yet. And so, for years of build out to come, it'll take a while before you'll have that millimeter wave access, consistently everywhere you go. That's the promise. We'd love to all see that, but today the reality is a balance between those. And then in terms of the the user experiences, we have to also design for those variances that might be in the real world, so that you don't set expectations that everybody has a gigabit per second download. You have to build for the reality that the network coverage may vary as the user's in a car at 65 miles an hour on the freeway, and they're switching between towers and different coverage and different demand on the radio at that moment. That will change. So we've been working with companies like Ericsson and Nokia and others to create some changes in the way that applications can operate and do what's called a rate adaptation, so that we can accommodate these variances between the different bands that the user might be on, and also the different network conditions to create a smoother, more consistent experience. The key to this is enabling the network to tell the application what's going on in the network. So that instead of the application just saying, hey, I want this data, give it to me now, do this thing, and wait for it to happen whenever it happens, the network can say, hey, just so you know, this is what the conditions on the network are right now. We're only going to be able to give you this much bandwidth. You're going to have to wait this much latency for the data to come back. And that really can change the way that developers build applications and create a much higher level of consistency in the customer experience. So that's where we're all pushing over the next few years.
Well, then in that case, let me bring in this whole XR streaming kind of topic. And I know a couple of weeks ago, Leslie, we were talking and you were sharing some ideas about not just edge computing, but what Qualcomm and NVIDIA are doing on, getting these adaptive rates to work not just across the edge, but, between the cloud rendering on one side and then delivering it as quickly as possible to the end user device. Maybe you can retell that story, because it was just fascinating about what the NVIDIA is especially doing.
Yeah, the both for the non-telco in the non-telco world, Qualcomm and NVIDIA are the two companies that are really doing the most to enable this edge. And when we talk about the edge, the magic is it's no accident that here we're talking about AR and VR, but cloud gaming and drone control have already come up, and visual analytics as well. What all of these have in common is the idea of taking the processing off of the end device, whether it's a drone, whether it's an AR, VR headset, and moving it into the network. That same network architecture supports all of these different new use cases. But then 5G is that necessary link between the minimum processing on that end device, so the end device is cheaper, has a longer battery life, and doesn't heat up as much, and having the rest of the functionality happen in the network. And of course, if you've got a bunch of servers sitting in the network, now your compute accessibility is much higher. So, yay, win, win, win. But the actual physical work of understanding what processing goes on the end device and what is happening in the network, that's where Qualcomm and NVIDIA are really rolling up their sleeves and figuring out what goes where. And NVIDIA is actually doing some, and other companies as well, possibly Nokia, Bell Labs. I'm not going to say anything there, but NVIDIA is public about it, so I'll talk about them. Looking at breaking down not just because how far the processing goes into the network, the closer the processing gets to the network edge, the more expensive it is, because the footprint of the available compute is smaller. So if you have something far away in a data center, that's going to be cheaper than if you got something right at the network edge. So you really it's that balance between the cost and the latency is what you need to strike. And one of the things that NVIDIA and other companies are working on is not just having this use case sits right at the edge and this other one goes deeper in the network, but teasing apart the different compute burdens within a single use case. So something like, like a VR, you're in a world, and some of the fast processing stuff happens at the edge, but some of the background processing stuff that doesn't change that often happens deep into the network. So this is called distributed computing, and this is the kind of thing that ultimately is in development now, and it's ultimately going to make it possible for a high definition virtual reality feed to be carried over a commercial network without taking the whole network down. so that's the really exciting stuff that the industry is working on, that is going to just completely change the availability of AR and VR over 5G long term.
Yeah, I mean, Ingmar, you were just also mentioning about these capabilities, especially when it comes to positioning. Maybe you want to go into more detail about exactly why that's important.
I was just blown away by a picture that was made by Leslie. So, yes. but there's one more thing, many more things to 5G, and one of them is not only the very high bandwidth and speed, which is of course absolutely beautiful, necessary for AR and VR, but the other one is helping the AR headset to understand where it is. So for you to actually make a decent picture and put on this augmented reality component on the picture you see, you need to understand where your headset is. And this is where 5G comes in again. So everybody is looking forward very much for the next capability that will come from the 5G. It is coming together with massive MIMO antennas in high bandwidth areas that you will be actually able to determine, based on the signal that is coming into your headset from the massive MIMO antenna, your positioning up to 2 to 3. Okay, let's see how many or how few, but up to a few centimeters precision, and that is a big feature for AR development, that you will be able to position your headset on the go. That's beautiful as well.
It's huge. I mean, it's beyond huge, because the whole idea of the AR cloud is fundamentally going to be starting with, can I precisely position the user so I know what to take from the AR cloud and do with. And there's a huge difference between GPS you know, especially if you're in a major city, you might be off by a block, you know, a city block. But, you know, even most people practically would say 30 meters as the estimated range, right, of accuracy. You can even get to 1 meter of accuracy. It's a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, I was also looking at back in the day when it was still like 3G. We were looking at like other ways of doing proper positioning in a city, whether that was ultra wideband or some other type of technology to basically get you within like that 25 feet area that Bluetooth has provided for us for so long. But now I have to ask because it would be bad of me not to. I mean, we've seen on the consumer side that Nreal can be attached to your phone that has a 5G module, la 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 la. Where are we at basically on trying to get, you know, a 5G module into a headset? I mean, there's got to be a lot of testing to actually feel comfortable having that kind of radio waves next to your brain. Please, any opening up to the field, anybody that wants to tackle that one. I'm scared to ask it.
I can answer to this point specifically for Unreal, because we made a lot of tests and more than a test with this device, and we started when Unreal comes up. The first device and the first SDK were quite poor, but now they improve a lot their solution, and I guess that all the other Qualcomm family will follow as what Unreal did. In fact, the last SDK introduced the recognition of the hands, and this is absolutely relevant because with the more wearable device with respect to the HoloLens, you could have quite more the same experience. I tried myself these glasses, and the quality of the hologram and of the vision is really similar to the HoloLens one, even if they are more light in your face and more wearable. There are two problems at the moment. One is the cable. The device is connected to your mobile phone through a cable, but with the latest models, probably they cut this, and so they will be more friendly in the usage. And the other problems was that you don't recognize your finger. You can also only recognize this part of your hands.
Yeah.
So the experience is not so enhanced as for HoloLens, but taking into account that the pricing is really affordable respect to the HoloLens, I think that this will be absolutely relevant for the adoption of the solution, mainly for enterprises for first, like for the assisted maintenance that was mentioned before, but also in the consumer space. You know that also Facebook with Luxottica launched their AR glasses, even if they are not AR at all for the moment, but in the mid-long term they will be for sure.
But
and so it opens several options.
I mean, what about the automotive industry and head-up displays in cars, attaching 5G with navigational systems with this capability of great positioning? Does anyone want to? I mean, Terry, I mean, with all the German car manufacturers, you've got to have something up your sleeve on that one.
Well, in general, we'll talk about I'll tie the two questions together. So I think 5G is part of the story. You need Wi-Fi, you need Bluetooth, you need Wi-Fi 6E. You need a combination of communications technologies, especially in that last meter of the user's personal space. The phone provides compute, it provides network connectivity, it provides power to a headset. So I think over the next couple of years, it's going to be about a tethered experience, because the practical reality is we don't want to give up the compute in order to put power up here, because we'll drain the battery and we'll put too much heat and weight on the user's head, right? So it's going to be a while before we have wirelessly tethered AR headsets, but they'll still be tethering to the phone. It'll still be using the phone for the 5G compute. We're not going to get rid of these anytime soon. but we might as well lean in and leverage the billion or so AR capable handsets that are out there. In terms of like specific embedded environments with automotive use cases, for example, I think there's been work done, taking lightweight AR glasses and enabling them to be a driver experience, and also there's work with companies like HoloRide doing entertainment experiences where you can sit in the back of the car as a passenger and enjoy the VR experience without getting nauseous, because they're balancing the experience with the movement of the car and making it physically compatible. I think it's going to be a while before we would lean into the network for a HUD AR type of user experience, because we need to fine tune the reliability of the network to a point that provides a safe experience. I think it'll be on device compute in the car. In-the-car compute, providing the rendering of that. Just the same way today that we have a touchscreen display providing the mapping. It has to be that reliable, that consistent before we'll make that transition to an AR enhanced version of that.
Okay, I think I got to wrap it up. Unfortunately, we started a little bit late, but we've now overrun a little bit. And actually, two of our panelists are now going to be heading. Ingmar and Leslie are going to be doing the rapid fire. So we're going to shut down this screen, and in 5 minutes, basically, we're going to do the last rapid fire session, where it's going to be, hot pounding questions from our moderator. I would like to thank all of you so much for making the time. If you have any last statements, one last sentence that you want to say, please, this is your chance.
Side link. Just the possibility of two headsets being 5G without the base station. That's lovely. Just
cool. Leslie, what you got? Rapid fire.
All right, Ingmar's just side linked me there. Wow. Being able to have being able to have the power of 5G is to bring high definition experiences. And so so right now with the Oculus Quest, which is a fantastic device, but running over Wi-Fi, it's not bringing you the high definition. Once we get 5G into these headsets, and it'll take a little time, but once it's there, we're going to be just completely blown away by the fidelity and the reality of what we can see in our virtual reality experiences. And I just can't wait. It's going to be amazing. Oh, look, my dog wants to say hi too. So.
Oh. Terry, any last words?
Yeah, really quick.
Yeah, I just want to add. Sorry.
Ladies first.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just want to add that if after this panel you want to develop your own solution on 5G, please stay tuned, because we are going to launch the new edition of Action for 5G, so join us.
Fabulous.
Cool.
Terry, have you got a plug as well?
No, I'm not going to plug anything. I'm going to say that just be mindful. There is some hype, but there's a lot of real acceleration happening, both on the device side and on the network side. And in between, there's a lot of opportunity for developers to transform the human experience. I think over the next year, you're going to see a lot of software enablement to make this, what is currently kind of a very siloed, fractional experience, transform itself into a much more consumer-driven, consumer-oriented, and broader accessible experience platform. So I'm really excited about that. Stay tuned.
Fantastic. Thank you all again once. And for everyone that watched, thank you for sticking around for that extra minutes, and enjoy the last day tomorrow for the Global Summit. And again, thank you to all the production team behind it. Thank you, Cameron, and have a lovely, lovely evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are.